BlueCat Network Discovery provides visibility into IP addresses assigned to devices. It works across segmented networks to enable accurate network management and improved service delivery. Let's jump right in. Now I'm making some changes in my lab environment, and I need to assign some IP addresses for some new devices. Unfortunately, I know the IP address assignment information in my BlueCat Address Manager is out of date. So I'm going to use the network discovery solution to update the IP address assignment information in Address Manager. I'm imagining that this is my central Address Manager appliance, and the lab network is isolated. It's not directly routable from my production network, but I'm able to connect to a network discovery server running within the lab environment. So I've deployed the network discovery application on a BlueCat DNS DHCP server, and I've connected a tunnel from my workstation to that server that's running the BlueCat Gateway platform. In my IP address space, I have a block. I have a separate configuration for the lab environment because that's an independent segmented IP address space. And within that, I have a block 192.168 and some lab networks. So I'm going to, if I just look in this network and check the IP address assignments, I see that there are only 11 IP addresses assigned, and I know that that information is completely out of date for this network. So I'm going to go to the network discovery application and add a reconciliation policy. So I'm adding that for my lab configuration, and the probe I've installed in the lab environment, I've labeled lab probe. From a single management instance of the network discovery application, I can manage multiple network discovery probes. In this case, I'm going to call this my demo discovery, and I'm setting this up for my 192.168 block. I'm going to discover using SNMP against the VIOS router running in the lab environment. That router exposes the ARP cache tables via SNMP using standard SNMP MIBs that the discovery solution understands. So that router is running on 192.168.1.2. I'm going to authenticate using SNMP version 3. There's no VRF on that network device, so I'm clearing the VRF information. SNMP is running on the standard port, and I'm going to configure it for SNMP v3 authentication. Accept the defaults for other settings and add the policy. Before I do, just mention that you can schedule the policy to run on a regular basis. For example, every day, and then you configure the first start time. I'm not going to configure a regular schedule now. I'm only going to run it once. So the policy is now added. And I can see that policy listed in the reconciliation policies for the lab configuration in Address Manager. And if I want to get back to the configuration screen for that, I can click this link to access the network discovery application. Right now, I'm going to choose to run that policy now. So I'm selecting my demo discovery policy and I click Run now. And that's kicked off the discovery policy. The discovery is going to take a minute or two to run. There, now the discovery's run and we see it's discovered the Vios network device. And on that device, it's found 63 devices connected to 7 subnets. We'll now check in the IP reconciliation tab, where the information found by discovery has been compared with the information in Address Manager. Here we see 3 different types of differences. An unknown IP address is an IP address that's been discovered on the network, but wasn't marked assigned in Address Manager. So there's a large number of those devices. For all of those, I'm going to reconcile to mark those IP addresses as assigned in Address Manager. There's a few IP addresses in a mismatch state. This means that the MAC address information has been found on the network. Either there was no MAC address recorded in Address Manager, or the MAC address has changed. So for those, I'm going to update the MAC address on the IP address in Address Manager. Now, these remaining IP addresses are IP addresses that were seen on the network in the past or that were shown as assigned in Address Manager, but they didn't show up in this particular discovery run. Now, this could be that the device was only temporarily off the network. For example, I guess that's the case for this device here. But I know that on my 192.168.2 network, these IP addresses are just old, so I'm going to reclaim those. That means remove the assignment. It's no longer in use. Of course, I don't want to have to do that every time discovery runs, so I can set up an automatic reconciliation policy. So I'll enable automated acceptance. For reclaim, I don't want to immediately reclaim IP addresses that are not in use at the particular time discovery runs, but I do want to have those IP addresses reclaimed eventually. So I'm going to set that up. If something's not been seen for 60 days, we're going to remove it from Address Manager. For new IP addresses, new devices, or changes to the MAC address, I'm happy to reconcile that immediately. Update that configuration and go back to the IP address space. This is the network I want to use, and now select the assigned addresses. Now I can see which IP addresses are really in use on this network, and I'm able to choose a group of unassigned addresses to use for my new network devices. And that's BlueCat Network Discovery. Visit bluecatnetworks.com to learn more.